Hey everybody, welcome to this week's video. I get a question pretty regularly about compression. Compression seems to be this mysterious thing that people have a hard time working with, or maybe they're afraid of, or they just don't know what it does. So I want to talk about why we use compression and what it's used for. The first and main reason for compression for me is simply just to control volume. It is called a dynamics processor for a reason. Dynamics meaning loud and soft. And so really what it's doing, if it's controlling volume, is it's controlling and containing the dynamic range of a track. I tend to use it on most things, on all tracks, to control loud moments and get more consistency throughout. So let's take a look at this reason for using compression. We've got a lead vocal track here, and you can see there's some soft stuff over in this area. Then you've got medium and then kind of loud. And so let's listen to what that sounds like without compression.
Whoa, 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 oh, whoa, whoa.
Okay, so pretty clear there, soft, medium, loud. Now, if we open up our compressor here, I've just got a simple sort of channel strip compressor. This is a track plug by Wave Arts. If I've got a couple of compressors on this lead vocal, just so you can hear what it does. So again, here's what it sounded like without.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay, now let's listen to that with compression on. And you can watch here, you'll see in this column how much the gain is being reduced. And I'm making up some of that gain, but you'll see how much it's controlling the loudness here.
Whoa, 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 oh, whoa, whoa.
So it's just controlling it a little bit. I've got kind of a low ratio here. Really, that's all it's doing, is just giving me a little bit more consistency throughout the track. So now let's look at the next reason we use compression. We're going to bring up I can close this guy. Got the drum track here. And let's look in this section here. So let's solo the percussion. The second reason we use compression is to create energy. And what it's doing is when it's reducing the dynamic range of the track, you're essentially making the louds softer and the softs louder. You're bringing them closer in dynamic range. So the softs sound louder and you can turn them up. And that means you get more spit. You get more energy, essentially. You get more noise. And that translates into energy. So here's what the live vocal percussion, the spit track, sounds like without compression on. Okay, and now I'm going to turn the compression on. And again, pretty light compression ratio. I've got some makeup gain here, but you'll be able to see what's happening. Here again is before, and now with it on. So it's louder, but we're also hearing more of the spit, more of the noise. It's also bringing out the attacks. It's making that sort of inner K snare sound more crisp. It's making the kick drum hit a little harder. And then that brings us to the third reason we use compression, which is to make things beefier, to bring out sustain. Essentially what is happening, let me bypass that there. we're going to listen to this bass track here. Essentially, and I'll bring him up to 0 so you can hear him. Essentially, when you put a compressor on something, the sustain of the track can also be made louder, the meat of the track, and it makes the whole thing sound beefier or fatter. It actually brings out the tone of the instrument or the voice you're using it on. And you can experiment with different compressors and different settings in the compressor to do differently. So let me open this compressor here. And here's the bass without it. Okay, and now here's with it. So you hear it really brought out that that type of frequency, the sort of meaty aspect of the bass tone there. So that's the 3 reasons we use compression in general to control volume. I kind of like what Graham Cochran says about compressors and volume. Really, a compressor is just an automated volume fader, essentially. So controlling volume, creating energy, and making something fatter, beefier, giving it more sustain. Those are the 3 reasons. And really, all compressors are different. None of them are the same. They react differently to different tracks. So you really have to experiment, play around a little bit. Most plug-in compressors will come with presets. So start with a preset and see what it does to your track, because one bass track is going to sound different than the next bass track or the next drum track or whatever, and the compressor is going to perform differently. So just play with it. Don't be afraid of it. Learn what too much compression sounds like. Learn what not enough sounds like. Play around with all the settings, and you'll learn how to use a compressor or how to use a new compressor. I still run into weirdness every time I try something new. So you just got to experiment. Thanks for joining me again this week, and head on over to recordingacappella.com for much more. I posted an article this week about the concept of less is more in relation to drums and vocal percussion and mixing. So take a look at that, and I will see you again next week.